welcome to Road Testament on Drive. Hit us up on @Drive on Twitter. We have an excellent show today, and the reason why it's excellent is we have a special guest who's come all the way across the ocean's blue. Hello, Chris Harris.
Hello, Mike, and your
Good to
boobs.
see
Are you
you.
well? Yeah.
Me and me boobs is fine. Yeah.
Your moobs.
My moobs. So what are we going to be talking about today on Road Testament?
Every time you say Road Testament, is it law to go
No,
road?
it's a nervous tick. It's become
it?
a kind of, like a thing where I start and then turn to the camera.
Let me tell you why I'm here.
Okay.
That made a noise, didn't it?
It's okay.
I'm here to provide moral support, Michael, because I
Fantastic.
think that this is a difficult job.
This is a very difficult job, Chris Harris.
So I'm here to prove that actually it's not very easy sitting in a studio trying to talk
Right.
about cars.
No,
okay?
it's absolutely true. And I know your on-screen delivery is usually spot on, as you say in your land. No, it's
what, Pakistan.
No, but I mean, you're good on camera, right? And you've done camera stuff before.
I'm not going to say anything on that.
All right. No, I know you're very, very modest. By the way, modest individual. Sign of genius. All right. Sorry, that was a joke. See what I did? That was. All right. So today we're talking about cars and moving from generation to generation, and sometimes that's a good thing, and sometimes that's a bad thing.
Okay, forget all the messing around.
All right.
We're car geeks, all right?
Yes.
So if we're having a beer, we'll inevitably get onto the discussion of this sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And I think a common theme at the moment is that cars have reached such a point of technical brilliance, but also sort of interactive brilliance. Mm-hmm. They're great fun to drive. Is the next generation going to be as good in all areas as the past generation? Because there's no doubt that technically they're going to become better and cleverer, but does that mean they're going to be as much fun to drive? We've just been through the whole 997 to 991 process, and I'm not entirely convinced at times. You drive a 991 electric steering and PDK gear change, I'm not sure it's giving me everything I was getting in the old car. I'm still not convinced either way. And we were discussing, weren't we? So we've got some significant launches coming up. Has it gone too far?
Right.
You know, do we need the technology, and is it providing us with what we want?
Right. And in making cars easier to drive, if you're not a skilled driver, in doing that, in creating things like PDK that for the driver who isn't skilled with the stick, are we actually democratizing, clipping the highs and bringing the lows up in a way? You know what I mean? It's sort of
it's happening everywhere, isn't it? It sort of happens in every discipline, in every walk of life. Golf's a good example. I know you're a keen golfer yourself.
Of course.
But if you take the average golf bat now, and I give it to you, and you hit the ball with that golf bat, you'll hit it a lot better than if I gave you a club from 20 years ago. Exactly. That would have just been a mess and hurt your hands. So I think that sort of improvement in motor cars is a good thing. I don't think that every car should be a Widowmaker. I really don't. So 996 GT2 on a wet road probably should have a health warning on it. You know, it was amazing. It's great fun for us that do skids and stuff to say we can do it. But to the majority of people that own them, it was an accident waiting to happen.
Right.
But has it gone too far? So let's start this off with 991 and 997. Have you driven both?
Yes.
Okay. If I had outside now a 997 GTS late model manual gearbox and a 991 which had the PDK and the electric steering and everything, and I said, you've got this car for 3 days to enjoy driving, which one would you have?
That's an excellent question. I think.
Well, answer it then.
Well, I hadn't thought of that, and we hadn't rehearsed this. So I would go. I'm going to go with the GTS.
Would you?
Because of the steering.
You see? So you've sort of
And
answered.
I don't want to be one of those wankers, as you. No. I don't want to be one of those idiot automotive journalists that automatically think that electric steering is crap.
The 911 died when they took the fan off the
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
But there's something that I enjoy about where the 911 stopped at the GTS.
And I think there is something in that for me as well. And the M3 is a very interesting example. I've just driven the RS4, which it's not a car that people get quite as frothy about, the RS4, because it sort of serves a purpose that's a bit different to the M3. The M3 is the heartland of the whole web community, sort of fast sub-911 performance thing. Yeah. And that car is defined by being rear-driven, having a manual gearbox, locking differential, and a normally aspirated engine. And the next one is probably going to have only paddles, might well do, and it's probably going to have a turbocharged engine. So does that mean that suddenly everyone's going to want to own an E90 series M3 to keep it?
I mean, it didn't quite happen that way with the E46 and the because when that car came out, that was perfection, right?
I think it still is in some ways.
And it still is in some ways, but it hasn't. People aren't hoarding them, though. So you're right.
I think they're going to, though.
Maybe eventually
That's
they will.
a tip. Buy an E46 M3, either a CS or a CSL. Do you get CSL here or not?
We didn't get the CSL. No.
Ooh, you really missed out there.
We don't get, and this may be another show when you come back, but all of the crap that we don't get that you guys
You're not getting the RS4. I spoke to one of the brand guys on the RS4 launch and said, why aren't they getting the RS4? It'll be a massive market. And they said they wanted the RS3 instead. I would say that the E46 M3 will be remembered as one of the great performance cars. In fact, I was thinking in my head of a feature I want to do for Pistonheads, about the top kind of 50 performance cars of the last 50 years.
Yeah.
And I might be able to construct an argument for the E46 being the most complete package of all. There's not much wrong with that car.
No.
Okay,
No,
the brakes are made of butter, but you can sort that out.
Yeah.
But it still looks fresh. If you see a clean one that's not been pimped and messed around with, you just go, wow.
Yeah.
So the car that followed it, I mean, you could argue that the E92, in terms of its fuel range and some of the things it does under steering, not actually as good as the E46. So did the M3 start the trend, the sort of downward spiral?
Well, in a way, I mean, it's when did capability start trumping decisions about a car's drivability, right? So
I can tell you founded Jalopnik with that incisive thinking. But
But you know what I'm saying?
Well, absolutely.
It's really about and people blame Nürburgring.
This is my pondering. I think it started about 5 or 6 years ago. I think we could also then come back to your question, when did it start? Let's try and define it. What are the systems that define the movement from interaction to technical excellence? They are chassis systems, aren't they?
Yeah.
Anything that to do with traction control, yaw control, stability, damping, switchable damping, electric power steering, anything that gets in the way of your hands on the or feet or bum on the control systems of the car, to the actual control moving, is evil. That's when we should be going.
Yeah. Well, when processors got fast enough for them to be able to take sensor data and translate it through the bus into the various hardware bits that make all that stuff possible, I think that that's when shit started going a little bit crazy.
Can you get milk out of those?
The moobs?
I mean, you've explained it in a way that I can't, because I can't even turn an Apple Mac on. So, for me, you're quite right. It's when people started doing more things with laptops than they did with screwdrivers and honest tools.
Right. There's a curve somewhere where that became
2002. Somewhere around there, I think.
Yeah.
And for me, it's really interesting because the next gen of cars, I think we can assume that the manual gearbox is now dead. I mean, I'm there fighting for the survival of the thing because I feel it so passionately. But much to my my irritation and sadness, I can't find a Ferrari 599 with the manual gearbox in the UK. There is no such car. It was never delivered. You've got some here.
Yeah,
and a guy on Twitter was corresponding with me earlier today saying, I had one, it was a bit of a nightmare in first and second gear. I then said, but was it good once you got it going? And he went, magic, that open gate. But I think that the move towards technology in cars is going to mean that cars that obviously celebrated not having technology in the past will become more collectible. So I think an M3 with a manual gearbox is going to be worth twice an SMG car. I do. I had a Ferrari 575 manual with Fiorano. I mean, that just sounds like me waving my willy around a Ferrari. But, it was a really cool car.
Yeah.
But because it's got a manual gearbox, that is now worth a load more money because people realise that if you're going to drive it once a month, much nicer to do this than do this. Other cars that are coming up, Golf GTI, is that going to be worse than the car it replaces? Is it going to be less fun? I'm not so sure in terms of the Golf because the Golf already is quite a numb thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
So to be better, it's just got to be a bit quicker and a bit more technically capable. So maybe this only applies to cars that are more than just a device.
Right.
Yeah?
Right. Well, I mean, a lot of it's come down from starting with safety stuff, right? So they've had to make cars heavier, and once they can lighten them up with new materials, though, maybe you can go back to the kind of feel that if you can pull the average sports sedan down from 3,800 pounds down to,
I have no
or
idea what
what's
that
kilograms? Well, 3,800 kilograms.
That's what, 1,700 kilograms.
1,700.
Yeah, I think
so.
so.
1,700 kilograms down to something more in the range of 1,400, say. And then there's less. The forces acting on every corner become less, and you don't need to over damp and over tire.
A lot of it's down to compliance and legislation, though, isn't it? For example, if you've got a car like the RS4 with its S-tronic gearbox, when it goes through certainly in Europe, when it goes through the European drive cycles for fuel economy, it's 20% more efficient because they can program the S-tronic gearbox to behave a certain way during all the cycle tests.
Yeah.
So manual gearboxes and that kind of stuff is it's basically being outlawed.
Yeah.
And I find it really disappointing. What other cars are coming up that could also could be considered to be less enjoyable? What about this F12M? That's an interesting one because the F12 replaces the 599, and I think the 599 can probably be classed as a technology car, can't it?
Yeah.
There were a few manual ones, but it was very much traction control, electronic differential. It had some very clever things. Actually, no, it didn't have the diff, did it? It had the F1 track, and that car was very much a sort of PlayStation device, wasn't it?
Right.
You had two hands on the wheel, the paddles, and you didn't do much else.
Yeah.
The F12 will be the same. This is another thing then. By just throwing more performance at a car, do you make it better?
Right, and as we know from the cars that we've just even mentioned, that's not the case. Right?
Yeah, I agree.
But I think that in some ways, horsepower is becoming a kind of consolation prize for that happening. So, okay, it's got 700. Let's say the F12 is going to have 700.
What the Lord taketh away.
The Lord taketh away and addeth, the horsepower. So you end up with a 700 horsepower, or even the Reventon, right? 6 something, right? 6. What is it? 630? I don't even remember what it is, right?
What, the Reventon thing?
Yeah. No.
Yeah. Oh, the Aventador.
The Aventador.
No, that's 700 horsepower.
That's straight 700. Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just the 700.
Right, but just right. So 700. It's a remarkably quick car. As much fun. Well, all right. Well, maybe Lamborghini's a bad example. Let's pull Lamborghini off the table.
Look,
because it is better than a Murcielago, but better to drive.
The reality is, you're quite right to put it like that. I think that it's very difficult to present technology as an overtly positive sales device to people that want an emotional car. You can do it in normal cars because you can say this is safer, more efficient, and people go out and buy cars in volume like that. But you can't do that in terms of what's JF waving at?
I don't know. He's
very off-putting.
He's doing the Pete Townsend.
That's for you.
But you can't actually. It's difficult to sell an emotional product on those terms. And as you're quite right, so they just give bigger numbers.
Yeah.
Like I drove a 599 earlier this week, and in second gear, full noise on a British A road.
Yeah.
It feels anti-socially fast. It feels so much faster than either of the things we're driving today, driving the ZL1 and the GT500. Honestly, 599 fully lit is outrageous. If you got out of that car and then said to the person that had been sitting next to you, wetting the seat, you said to them, the one that replaces this in a few months' time has got 100 horsepower more, they'd just go, that's not true. It can't be possible.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure it does actually add an awful lot more, this extra power we're getting. It's dead exciting.
Yeah.
Quite where you use it, I don't know. But you know the sad thing? I honestly think that outside of this room, not many people care about this stuff.
And that's yeah. I mean, that's
and it just
been
makes
the
me go,
problem.
I just don't want to know.
I know it's become that sports cars used to be something that was a mainstream product. Now it's becoming like a jet ski. It's almost becoming like a power sport that you do or that you get on the side and you drive your Prius during the week.
But are we going to go through a sort of regeneration where we relearn this stuff and we become passionate about it again? Hi-Fi did this for many years. In the 80s, Hi-Fi became more about buttons and widgets and gadgets, and then suddenly, sometime in the 90s, I think people just went, do you know what? That's actually bullshit.
Yeah.
Let's just have a pure amplifier with a source knob and a volume knob and not have tone controls. Let's have it plain, unadulterated. And that's kind of persisted to this point and become the way that people behave with Hi-Fi. So why isn't it happening with sports cars?
Yeah.
Why do things have to get so flipping complicated?
Well, here's what I mean. Do you think that we might just be technology-wise, in a transitional stage. I mean, obviously, the auto industry is always in a transitional stage because they're always looking for the next thing. But do you think that with lighter materials, stronger, lighter stuff, more carbon fiber, maybe lighter cars, maybe better engineering, things like the magnetic dampers, for example, that can do all kinds of different things, right? Or
none of them right.
Or
I think we will. I think what we'll see is a tangential family of cars for this purpose. For want of a better phrase, for flat earthers like you and me, I think that manufacturers will make stuff that will satisfy us, and it will be basic, and it will be carbon bodied, maybe even carbon structured, and it will have, maybe, if we're lucky, a lever here, 3 pedals, and it'll be pure. But it probably won't be from the brands that we want it to be from. It probably won't be from the Ferraris and the Porsches and the ones that we'd love it to be from. It might be from clever, malleable, fast-moving companies like, this little Renault sports car could be very interesting. Toyota, with the FRS, GT86, whatever you want to call it, that's a really profound statement at this point in time, I think, to say, 2-driven rear wheels, manual gearbox, off you go.
Yeah.
I think that's a strong statement. So I think it will, sadly, unlike hi-fi, the motor car is scrutinised on so many levels, on sort of so many socio-political, even environmental levels. It's under scrutiny the whole time, and it has to be seen to be moving forwards and making itself cleaner and more responsible within every community that it operates.
Yeah.
And that means it's going to have to adopt all these technologies, and the next BMW lightweight sports car, the i whatever, might have a carbon shell, but sadly it'll change gear itself, and we're stuck with it. I feel quite depressed now, Mike. Can we get a drink?
Let's go get a drink. I was going to say maybe we should put away the knives. Put the knives away.
Okay. Just go and buy an that one there.
Go
and buy an E46 M3. I'm now absolutely convinced that that's the car.
That's
18-inch wheels, because the 19s were a little bit bling. So 18s, manual. I like the heated seat option. If you don't have heated seats, you've got a bit of a gap on the button thing as well. So the heated seats are good. And also, when you buy it, check in the air ducts for the brakes, because if they've been removed, that means it's probably done some track work.
Yeah. And you can almost get one cheaper than what a good E30 is going for now, because those things are just have gone off the charts.
Yeah, the E30,
it's gone. We missed it.
That's another road testament. Is the E30 M3 overrated?
Ducks. Whoa. Oh, whoa. Road Testament. That's it for this week. Thank you very much. Chris Harris in New York. Could you imagine? Could you imagine this? It's awesome.
JF took me to the place that they used to film the Bing on The Sopranos. I mean,
hey, come on. Who's better than you now? Who's better than this guy?
I don't know, Mike Spinelli.